Hello, welcome to a brand new video. Today we're continuing our series of Plato's dialogues with Crito. In the two previous videos, we discussed Euthyphro and Apology, so I'll check those out before watching this one for proper context. But in short, in Euthyphro, Socrates discusses whether something is good because it's chosen by the gods, or whether it's chosen by the gods because it's good. And we just discuss possible answers to this question. In Apology, we go through Socrates' trial and charges, and his trial is about the charges of impiety and corrupting the youth, and he was eventually sentenced to death in Apology. So Crito takes place in Socrates' prison cell 1 month after his trial and the sentencing. His friend Crito visits him and tries to persuade him to escape before his execution. In fact, he has bribed the guards and set up a safe haven in Thessaly. Crito says that Socrates' death would be a personal loss for him since they're friends, and he also has an ulterior motive that people would think he's broke or cowardly for not trying to save his friend, so in a way he's just trying to save face by this. Crito also tries to convince Socrates that by saying that his death will lead him to abandon his children as well. So Socrates, in Socrates' fashion, doesn't resort to emotion or rhetoric, but responds philosophically. Socrates doesn't care about what the majority of people think of him. One should follow the opinions of the wise rather than the unthinking majority. Furthermore, living unjustly damages the soul, and this is worse than death according to Socrates. The only life worth living is a just life, not necessarily a long life, and this sentiment is also seen in Plato's Republic, so I'm wondering whether Plato learned it from his teacher, or he's putting these words into the mouth of Socrates to further his ideas. To flee punishment would be a violation of the law and thus immoral, and he even criticizes Crito for even proposing such an idea. And he gives the analogy of the state being like a parent or a teacher. It raised him, it educated him, and therefore he agrees to obey to its rules. And to break the law is therefore like attacking one's own family. Furthermore, if Socrates flees, it might endanger his friend, and it would ruin his reputation, as he would be seen as a fugitive, and it would destroy his credibility as a philosopher who embodies justice. Socrates would rather suffer injustice than commit injustice. His lifelong commitment to the state demands obedience even to an unjust verdict. Now that we're done with the summary, it's time to reflect upon the dialogue. I particularly want to discuss his allegiance to the state. It can be seen in either two ways, a proto-social contract theory or total authoritarianism, depending on how you interpret it. With his analogy of the state being like a parent or a teacher, if it raised him and educated him, this is why he obeyed it, so one could extend that to mean that if he didn't, or if the state didn't teach him or raise him, then it would be okay if he could disobey it. However, if the state did act wrongfully to execute him, then perhaps we should interpret it in a more authoritarian way, in that there could be unconditional obedience to the state. Overall, Socrates seems a bit contradictory to me. On one hand, he sees philosophizing as a divine mission that would never abandon him even when he's faced by wrongful death. On the other hand, he says that he will never disobey the state no matter what. But then again, loyalty to the state also means taking its consequences as seen in Apology. He just wants to be consistent. And if the state doesn't want you to speak or think, its only choice is to get rid of you, and this is what seems to happen to Socrates. And this is especially true if you're speaking the truth. And in Socrates' case, the Oracle of Delphi told him he was the wisest man in Athens. Like Socrates says, an unexamined life isn't worth living, and the state is inhibiting him from doing this, then he went out on his own terms. Or maybe all of this was made up by Plato, who knows. Either way, the questions they raise still challenge us today. What do we owe the state, and what do we owe to ourselves? And that brings us to the end of this video, and hopefully that made sense to you, and if not, please leave a comment below, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. And don't forget to like and subscribe as always.